The community center buzzed with voices after the charity meeting, but Daniel, a well-known millionaire CEO, barely noticed. His mind was crowded with numbers, deadlines, and deals waiting for his approval. He moved quickly down the hall, his polished shoes clicking against the floor, his tailored suit a reminder of the life of precision and order he lived. Focused only on his phone, he pushed open a door without looking up, assuming it was the men's restroom. The faint echo of dripping water greeted him, and as he stepped inside, something felt different. It was quieter, softer, yet filled with a sense of presence. Before he could even realize he had entered the wrong place, his eyes landed on a sight that made him pause in complete stillness. In the far corner of the restroom, a young woman sat with her little daughter. The mother's hands worked gently in the sink, washing a tiny school uniform, while the child leaned against her, clutching a worn backpack. The girl's eyes lifted toward him, tired yet innocent, carrying a quiet resilience that struck him deeply. Daniel felt the heat of embarrassment rise in his chest as he realized his mistake, but the mother quickly offered a small, kind smile, as if to reassure him. At that moment, all his stress, his business worries, and the world outside faded. He hadn't just walked into the wrong restroom, he had walked into a reality he had never truly seen before. It was the beginning of something unexpected. The awkward silence hung heavy for a moment, but Daniel couldn't look away. The young mother wrung out the tiny shirt with care, laying it over the sink's edge to dry. Her hands were worn, her movements steady, as though this routine had been repeated countless times. The little girl, no more than 5, leaned her head against the wall, watching her mother with a quiet trust. Daniel finally cleared his throat, fumbling for words. I'm so sorry. I didn't realize. His voice trailed off, the weight of the situation rendering his usual confident tone weak. The mother glanced up, her eyes calm yet tired. "It's all right," she said softly, as if she were used to being misunderstood, overlooked, or caught in uncomfortable situations. She adjusted her daughter's backpack, smoothing the straps with a tenderness that broke through Daniel's polished exterior. Feeling compelled to understand, Daniel hesitated at the door but didn't leave. "Do you come here often?" he asked cautiously. The woman gave a faint nod. "We don't have a place right now. This is where I can wash her clothes before school. She deserves to feel clean, even if everything else isn't." Her words struck him like a blow. In his world, image was everything, yet here was a mother fighting to preserve her child's dignity with nothing but determination and love. For the first time in years, Daniel felt a crack in the wall he had built around himself. This wasn't charity, it was survival. Daniel's chest tightened as he leaned against the doorframe, trying to steady himself. The woman's quiet honesty carried more weight than any boardroom speech he had ever given. He had spent his life surrounded by wealth, power, and people who wore masks of confidence, but here, in this small restroom, stood a mother who had nothing yet radiated a strength he couldn't comprehend. The little girl tugged at her mother's sleeve and whispered, "Mommy, will they laugh at me again if my clothes smell?" The words were barely audible, but they sliced straight into Daniel's heart. He saw the woman blink quickly, swallowing her pain before answering gently, "Not today, sweetheart. Today you'll be ready." Something inside Daniel shifted. He stepped closer, his voice trembling despite himself. I had no idea people came here for this reason." The woman gave a weary smile, her pride refusing to let pity show. "We do what we must. I just want her to feel like she belongs." For the first time in years, Daniel didn't think about profit margins or contracts. He thought about the little girl's eyes, the fear hidden behind her innocence, and the mother's silent battle to protect her child's dignity. He realized then that all the charity galas he had sponsored, all the checks he had signed, had never really touched lives the way this simple act of listening could. It was no longer just an awkward encounter. It was a call, a demand from his own conscience, to step beyond his world and into theirs. Daniel felt his throat tighten as silence settled over the room. For once, he didn't want to walk away and hide behind excuses or his busy schedule. He crouched down, meeting the little girl's eyes. "What's your name?" he asked gently. "Emma," she whispered, clutching her backpack. "Well, Emma," he said softly, "I think you're very brave. And you deserve to go to school without worrying about anything else." His words made the girl smile faintly, though her mother's guarded expression revealed years of disappointment and broken promises from strangers who said kind things but never stayed long enough to help. Daniel straightened, pulling out his phone. He wasn't calling his driver or his secretary. This time, he was calling his heart into action. That very evening, he arranged temporary housing through one of his contacts, a safe place where Emma and her mother could sleep without fear. He promised to cover school supplies, clothes, and meals, not out of guilt but out of genuine conviction. When the mother tried to protest, insisting she didn't want charity, Daniel shook his head firmly. "This isn't charity. It's respect. You've done more for your daughter with nothing than I've ever done with everything I have. Let me stand with you." For the first time, the woman's eyes welled with tears she had tried so hard to hide. Emma wrapped her small arms around her mother's waist, and Daniel realized he had just made one of the most important decisions of his life, one that had nothing to do with business, but everything to do with humanity. Weeks later, Daniel returned to the community center, no longer as the untouchable CEO people whispered about, but as a man transformed. The once rushed footsteps that echoed through the halls were slower now, more thoughtful. He wasn't here for a meeting or a speech, he was here to see a promise fulfilled. As he entered, a burst of laughter caught his attention. Little Emma came running down the hall, her hair neatly tied, her uniform crisp and clean. In her hand, she clutched a small medal she had won at school. "Mr. Daniel," she shouted with uncontainable joy, leaping into his arms. "I got this today." Daniel's chest swelled with pride as he admired the medal. "I knew you could do it," he said warmly. The mother followed behind, her eyes glistening, carrying herself with a dignity that came from security and hope rather than survival. She reached out, her voice trembling. "You didn't just give us a home. You gave us back our lives." For a moment, Daniel found himself at a loss for words, humbled in a way no boardroom victory had ever managed. Smiling, he replied softly, "You and Emma gave me something too. You reminded me what really matters." In that instant, Daniel knew his wealth had finally found its true value, not in the towers he owned or the deals he closed, but in the quiet, profound act of changing a life. And as Emma's laughter filled the hall, he realized he had been given something priceless, the chance to become human again.